Okay, so let's start out first by talking about the materials and supplies that you'll need in order to build a successful piece of cardboard furniture. Of course, first and foremost, we need cardboard, right? Readily available, completely inexpensive. Most of the time you can get it for free. But I will tell you that not all cardboard is created equal. Cardboard can come in a variety of thicknesses. It can be single wall, like this piece right here. It can be double wall. It can even be triple wall. But just the amount of walls doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a stronger piece of cardboard. You want to look for a cardboard that's well constructed, that's rigid and strong, and won't buckle easily when pressure is applied to it. You just have to experiment with the cardboard that you get a hold of. You can definitely feel a difference between a good, strong, rigid cardboard and one that's a little softer and that you can tell is going to be a little bit more difficult to work with. Another thing that I love to use is cardboard tubes. Now, when I say cardboard tube, I'm not talking about the ones that are inside of a roll of paper towel, for example. These are extremely rigid cardboard tubes, and believe it or not, these come from the laminating machine down in the workroom, which I'm sure most of you have on your campuses. Those rolls of laminating film come on these very, very rigid cardboard tubes, and my office staff have been saving these for me for years, and they're really, really valuable when it comes to building things like tables and even chairs or stools or other types of items like that. Love these things, so I collect them and keep a good stash of them on hand. Another item that is surprisingly strong is rolled magazines. So that's what I have right here. Okay, this is just a rolled up issue of a magazine. And to create those, you're just going to take a basic magazine. I actually took just half of this one because I don't want it to be quite so thick when it's rolled up. But starting with the spine of the magazine, I'm just going to take this and very tightly start rolling it from the spine toward the outside edge. And I want to roll it tightly and securely, making sure my ends line up. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of tape and I'm going to secure those pages. They're just going to kind of splay across the outside like that. Secure those pages with a little bit of masking tape, scotch tape, either one will work, whatever you happen to have on hand. Put one more piece down here at the bottom. And if you can keep that tightly rolled, you'll be amazed at how strong that is because there's so many layers of paper inside of this. That is going to create a really rigid tube. Now, this might not be that great for building, let's say, a table leg necessarily, because it's not very tall. And it's going to be hard to join two of these together and end up having something that's really structurally strong. But for something like a cross support in between legs of a table or a chair, these are ideal. They're fantastic. They're lightweight, they're super strong, and they're really going to give you some good, strong support. Okay, now another material that we need for building cardboard furniture is masking tape. And just like cardboard is not all created equal, masking tape is not created equal either. So Scotch brand tape, like you see right here, is great stuff. It's really strong, has really good tack to it, so it's good and sticky. It's going to hold your sculptures together really well. Unfortunately, it's kind of expensive, like $3 to $4 a roll, depending on where you pick it up. And so I usually buy Duck brand masking tape, which you can get at places like Walmart. It's about half the cost, maybe even less than that. And we found in our experience that the Duck brand masking tape works just as well as Scotch. If that's what you've got, if that's what kids will bring in to use, there's certainly nothing wrong with that, but you certainly don't have to buy the high-end tape to be successful with this project. Now, there are some brands of masking tape out there that do not work well for projects like this. For example, HEB sells a brand called GTC. I think I have a roll of it back here. Let me grab it and show you. So this is GTC masking tape. And for a while, kids were bringing this in. I have my students bring in rolls of masking tape for our paper mache projects. And the problem with this, it'll stick at first when you first put it on, but then you find when you come back the next day that everything you've taped has loosened back up again. It just doesn't have enough tack to it. So you'll have to kind of experiment with the brands of masking tape that you have available to you, but you do want to make sure you've got a tape that has good tack, that's very, very sticky, and it's going to remain secure even, overnight when you come back the next day. Now let's talk about glue next, because glue is definitely important for the paper mache process and for the construction process. As far as glue used to join pieces together or to secure pieces, good old Elmer's Glue All, you just can't beat it. This is polyvinyl acetate or PVA glue. It's extremely strong and durable when dry, and it will hold layers of paper together very, very well. So I love Elmer's Glue All. School glue, other white glues should work well and should do the job. I just like the PVA a little bit better because it is just slightly stronger. Okay, but most of the glue that we use for cardboard furniture is the paper mache glue. So the glue that you're going to use to apply those strips of paper to the outer layers of your structure once you're finished with the construction process itself. And over the years, I've tried a lot of different glues. Early on, budget was low, tried to stretch my dollar as far as I possibly could. And believe it or not, I use just regular household flour and water. And it makes a surprisingly strong paper mache. It works really, really well. The problem is that I wasn't able to cook my recipes or cook the flour and the water to make a mache paste. So I was just using raw flour and water, mixing it to the consistency that I wanted to use. And it does work really well. It makes a really strong surface. Unfortunately, I don't know if you know this or not, but flour contains tiny microscopic bug eggs. I tell my kids that all the time. It totally grosses them out. So it has bug eggs. So you construct your sculpture with the flour and water paper mache glue, and if it gets in a humid environment or gets in a warm environment, believe it or not, those little eggs will hatch, and you'll find that little tiny brown beetles start eating their way out of your sculpture. The very first paper mache chair I ever made in my class, which was amazingly strong. We had 9 kids standing on that paper mache chair at one time. That's how strong it was. But it was made with the flour and water paper mache, and lo and behold, over the summer, it got warm in my classroom, and when we came back in the fall, there were tiny holes and a little dust all over the place, and those bugs had eaten their way out, so that chair had to be disposed of. I've tried other types of paper mache glue. The one I have the most success with, good old Elmer's, they should be paying me a fee because I'm giving them so many plugs, but Elmer's makes a mache paste called Art Paste. You can find this on Amazon, you can find it on other craft stores. I find that Blick has it the cheapest, so that's where I get mine from. It comes in a little bag of powder, like cellulose powder, just like that, okay? And you mix this with water and it'll create about a gallon of clear glue, which is very economical. This box costs about $3. If I had to buy a gallon of clear glue, it would be a lot more than $3. So I just about buy stock in this stuff. I love it. Okay, the only problem with it, the only difficult that I have with it, it is a little bit tricky to mix. If you try to just dump this in a bucket with a gallon of water, it's going to float on top, it's going to get lumpy, it doesn't mix real easily. So I recommend using just a little hand mixer will work fine. I actually have an old stand mixer that I got at Goodwill or someplace like that. It's just an old one, but I use a stand mixer to mix this up. And I fill my bowl about halfway with water first, add the mache glue, get the beaters engaged. I actually pour it in just real slowly, kind of trickle it into the water as it mixes up. And then once it's blended with the water that's in the bowl, then I slowly start adding more water to the bowl until I get it the consistency that I want. And that's what I love about this stuff, because it gives you the control. You can mix this as thick or as thin as you want it to, and it's a good strong paper mache. It holds up really well, it has good adhesion, and it's relatively inexpensive, so it's great stuff. Love this stuff. Now this next tool that I want to introduce to you, this one was introduced to me by a fellow TAEA member. I was at a TASB conference, believe it or not, and this teacher was doing a live demo with her students, and these kiddos were taking pieces of painted cardboard and they were cutting all these intricate shapes out of them and then cutting notches into them and notching them together and making all these freeform sculptures. And I was just blown away with the tool that these kids were using. This is called a canary cutter. Okay, canary cutter. It's made in Japan. And what it is, has a nice plastic handle, and then it's got a long rounded edge that is serrated all the way around the blade, even on the tip. So there's a serrated edge all the way around. These things are unbelievable. They cut cardboard like butter. They're absolutely amazing. Just using a sawing motion. Try to turn this so you guys can see. And what's nice is I can cut curves with it. I can cut all kinds of intricate shapes with it. They're just amazing. They just saw right through the cardboard, cut out whatever kind of shape you like. That serrated edge does the trick. Beautiful. Any kind of shape you like. The other thing I like about these is they're a lot safer. Believe it or not, for many, many years, I gave my 6th graders dollar store craft knives to cut cardboard with. And thank you God, I've been very, very lucky, had very few cuts, very few accidents, but even those dollar store blades, they are razor sharp. They're really, really sharp. And so you have to spend a lot of time talking with the kids about safety, about how to handle the knife correctly, how to cut correctly, so that they don't cut themselves or cut your tabletops or other things like that. These are a much, much safer tool. Now, I gotta warn you, they're a lot safer, but will they still cut skin? Absolutely, and we learned that the hard way. If a student is holding cardboard and their hand is underneath and they're sawing away at it and that finger is under there, it can cut into the skin if they apply enough pressure. So you still have to go over safety guidelines, but compared to a razor knife, a craft knife, a box cutter like you'd get at the dollar store, these are much more safer to use.